The story begins with Kozomi Hori hanging out alongside his group of friends. One of them notices that Kazuki-san is being confessed to by a boy outside the classroom window. She turns him down gently, explaining that she isn't interested in dating right now, and that her mind is occupied entirely with her brother. One of Hori's friends remarks that it's rare to see Kazuki Sokolo actually reject someone. Another friend is stunned that someone with such intense big brother affection genuinely exists. Kazuki is gorgeous, kind, and practically the class's unofficial mascot. Dozens of guys have confessed to her, yet every attempt ends the same way. They all get shut down because of her legendary obsession with her older brother. Hori's friends can't help but envy the sibling who receives all that attention. One of them even jokes that Kazuki's love for her brother seems so extreme it's almost taboo. Kozomi listens quietly, shaking his head at their speculation. He thinks his friends have watched way too much anime. In his mind, there are way more important things they should be talking about. His friend asks what he means, prompting Kozomi to brighten up. He eagerly brings up the anime episode he watched yesterday. He says Spy Darling was absolutely incredible. His friends perk up, curious to hear more. Kozomi launches into an enthusiastic retelling of the episode. This leads one friend to admit that Spy Darling wasn't even on his watch list. The other friend says he's already following the show and is excited for the next episode. The first friend finally admits that Kozomi's energy has made him want to check it out. He pulls out his phone and brings up the episode, showing his friend a quick snippet while urging him to check out the official preview. After watching it, his friend comments that the animation looks great and the visuals are genuinely stunning. Out of nowhere, a loud voice calls out, announcing that Otaku-kun is watching anime just like always. Kozomi jumps in surprise, and we see it's Kazuki. His friends are equally startled as she suddenly grabs the phone right out of Kozomi's hand, despite his objections. Kazuki loudly gushes about how adorable it is, causing everyone in the hallway to turn their heads toward them. With a big smile, she makes a bold and forward remark about someone's milkers. Hearing what she says, the three boys freeze in place, begging her to keep her voice down. Kozomi snatches his phone back as quickly as he can, but Kazuki keeps teasing him, saying that the scene he was watching was amazing and that Anastasia-chan was adorable. Kozomi shouts at her to stop, but she only beams at him and asks if the story is some kind of spy-themed romance, saying that the idea of a hidden love feels dreamy and romantic. As she turns to go, she pauses, winks at Kozomi, and tells him to pay attention to real life instead of fantasies, adding that he probably has at least one girl who's into him already. Kozomi's friend, still reeling from what just happened, looks at him and asks what's going on. Kozomi brushes it off, saying he's simply worn out, but as his friend calls after him, he walks ahead, lost in his own thoughts. His high school days seem pretty ordinary, at least to him that is. His personal life though is far from normal. After class, he usually goes out to buy groceries, with his mother busy working in a suit-related job and his father living in Italy as an entomologist. Kozomi currently shares a home with just one other person. Since he's in charge of cooking every day, he stops by the store right after school. While shopping, he reminds himself that the monthly food budget is tight, so he grabs some inexpensive red fish and a bit of chicken. With the groceries in hand, he heads back home and calls out to announce that he's back. He checks his phone and sees a message from his housemates saying they're heading out with a friend and will return around 7. He texts back got it, and adds that he picked up oatmeal and mini tomatoes while he was out. Looking at the clock, he realizes he has about an hour to spare. Kozomi changes out of his uniform, ties on an apron, and starts making dinner. He begins the meal prep by marinating the meat in sugar, soy sauce, and ginger. Lately, cooking has become something he genuinely enjoys because experimenting and finding new flavors is starting to feel fun. After chopping the vegetables, he mixes them together with the meat. His mind drifts to the rest of the menu. He realizes that chicken and green onions won't pair well with the fish. So he opts to keep the stir-fry simple, using only salt, pepper, and chicken broth for seasoning. Thinking about the expression of the person who will eat the dish gives him a warm sense of satisfaction. He decides to make a dashi-based side dish. Just then, someone enters the house and calls out a greeting. Kozomi smirks, thinking they arrived right on schedule. His housemate turns out to be Kazuki, who remarks that something smells delicious. He tells her to hurry up and get changed. She complains that he's so cold, insisting that her boyfriend and big brother should greet her with more affection and hug her like a real man. He reaches out, pats her on the head, and tells her to behave for now, which makes her smile. Their relationship began when they were still in middle school. His mother had announced that she was getting remarried to an entomologist she met through work. Kozomi was surprised but genuinely happy for her. When he went to meet his future stepfather and his daughter, he was stunned to discover that Kazuki was going to be his new little sister. Before that, they had simply been classmates who barely interacted. Although their parents did get remarried, it was through a common law marriage, meaning their family registry didn't change and they didn't live under the same roof. Even so, it felt like the emotional distance between them grew smaller, and Kozomi felt that this was a real turning point for them. By the time they finished middle school, they had become a couple and decided to tell their parents about their relationship. Their parents didn't seem particularly bothered by it, so the two of them continued their relationship carefully and respectfully. Before they entered high school, their parents made the decision to move to Italy for work, leaving Kozomi and Kazuki behind in Japan. They explained that living alone would be good practice for the two of them to learn independence. Now, the siblings stay in an apartment their parents rented for them. Once they started high school, they pretended not to know each other so they could keep their relationship hidden. At home, however, they balance the roles of both lovers and siblings without issue. After getting changed, Kazuki sits down at the table and compliments Kozomi's cooking, talking about how delicious the simmered fish tastes. She also digs into the chicken and green onion dish with enthusiasm. Kozomi responds that it was actually very easy to make. While eating, she adds that the broccoli soup is really good too. Kozomi mentions that it's made from frozen broccoli, but she doesn't care at all. She declares that his cooking is the best, which makes him grin. He feels proud knowing he's the only one who gets to see her happiest expressions and thinks his meals are good for her health. Feeling satisfied, he jokingly mumbles that it's like he's training her using food, kinda like when feeding a pet. When Kazuki asks if he said something, Kozomi replies that it was nothing and quickly changes the topic. He tells her he worries that she might be overdoing things at school. She questions why he's concerned, and he reminds her that she was the one who wanted to keep their relationship secret in the first place. She explains that she does want to keep it private, but she hates not being able to talk to him at school. She decided to act like someone who chats with everyone equally, thinking that would make it okay to talk to him too. Kozomi wonders if hiding her otaku side all the time is tiring for her, but she insists that it's not nearly as hard as he imagines. She's fine with how things are and has no desire for anyone to dig into her personal life or uncover their secret. Taking a sip of soup, she swears to continue acting and never reveal her true self to her classmates. He simply responds with, "I see." With a thumbs up, she jokes that there is absolutely zero chance she's dating her older brother. He says she's already doing a pretty convincing job of hiding it. He then asks if she still genuinely loves him. She answers without hesitation, saying she loves everything about him. After a moment, he asks what exactly she loves. She calls him a demanding boyfriend, then suggests it's because he's like a hero to her. He blushes, his heart skipping a beat. She asks what's wrong, and he blushes, admitting he thinks that what she said was incredibly cheesy. Kazuki gets irritated. Kozomi clarifies that suddenly calling him a hero just doesn't quite register with him. She argues that food is basically a lifeline, and since he's responsible for feeding her, he's pretty much her hero who saves her life with his cooking. Kozomi asks what kind of bizarre logic that is. She blushes and admits that her big brother always helps her. He blushes too and quickly switches the conversation, telling her to finish her meal. She obeys with a playful grin. This is his everyday routine. Suddenly, she remembers something and abruptly shouts, startling Kozomi. She asks if he bought ice cream while shopping. When he explains that today wasn't discount day, she realizes he didn't buy any and looks let down, saying she wanted something sweet and wonders if he understands how his adorable sister feels. His heart squeezes due to her cuteness. He replies that their food budget is tight this month, and she calls him stingy. No one knows that he eats dinner every night with the cuttest girl in their class. One evening, Kozomi and Kazuki are watching TV together. She holds his hand and insists they watch Spy Darling on the big screen. Kozomi looks at her and thinks that even though she seems like the typical popular girl, she's actually an otaku like him. Someone deeply obsessed with cute girl characters. As the episode starts, Kazuki comments on how flawless Anaha-chan's face looks and frets over her adorable reactions. She also laughs about how the past animation is unnecessarily detailed. Kozomi finds it amusing and thinks to himself that an anime must be peak quality when even the food animation is stellar. The story reaches a dramatic point. Both of them become so engrossed that they end up standing, adrenaline pumping, yelling at the screen. Kazuki shouts at Anakin to watch out for the enemy's electricity powers, while Kozomi warns her about a drone. When the climax arrives, they cheer for Anakin to counterattack, but she loses. Kazuki collapses onto the sofa, devastated. She admits that even when you expect it, it still hits hard, and she hides in her phone to distract herself. After a moment, her spirits lift again when Kozomi asks what she's looking at. She explains that she's scrolling through fan art to cheer herself up, admiring pieces that are cool, adorable, and even kind of alluring. She decides they should treat the fan art as a family treasure, print it out, and keep it forever. Kozomi silently wonders what exactly she means by family treasure. He reflects that this is the real Kazuki, the hardcore otaku she conceals from everyone else. Her passion for cute girl characters runs incredibly deep, and he thinks out loud that if anyone at school saw this side of her, they'd probably pass out. Kazuki, aware of that fact, says she hides it well enough, so it shouldn't be a problem. Kozomi knows, though, that her otaku tendencies occasionally slip out at school and that he's probably the only one who fully understands her. She says that since their relationship is hidden, their shared otaku side should stay secret too. Having two personas, one for home and one for school, makes her feel like a spy. Kozomi thinks that as long as she's enjoying herself, that's what matters most. Right then, Kazuki's face lights up as she notices a notification on her phone. The official account has released new Anaha-chan artwork, and she excitedly tells Kozomi to take a look. He leans in as she eagerly holds out her phone, proudly declaring that Ana-chan is unbelievably adorable and hands down the greatest. The following morning at school, a magazine cover featuring Kazuki is displayed on the bulletin board. Mia rushes toward her, showering her with praise and admitting she was stunned to find her featured in a magazine. Excitedly, she asks Kazuki about her reader model gig. Kazuki thanks her and explains that she just hadn't found the right moment to talk about it, gently adding that Mia really didn't need to cut out the page, laminate it, and put it up. Mia insists it was an honor to do it, leaving Kazuki unsure how to react. Watching from nearby, Kozomi wonders if this is the modeling job she mentioned before. Mia then announces that the picture deserves to be treated like a family heirloom. Kozomi winces, remembering Kazuki saying the exact same phrase, and realizes he has no room to judge. Another classmate points out that it wasn't a casual street photo, but a real studio session, surprised that Kazuki managed to debut as a reader model so suddenly. Kazuki laughs it off, while Kozomi quietly sits there with a faint sting of jealousy. Soon all the students are buzzing, chatting about her turning into a celebrity or even getting a shot at Hollywood someday. Kazuki tells them not to jump to conclusions. Mia mentions that a behind-the-scenes photo already got tons of likes and that a TikTok they posted together blew up online. Kazuki insists it was nothing but luck. Meanwhile, Kozomi mentally scolds her for filming inside the classroom, thinking it's way too risky. Mia then asks if she can take a picture of Kazuki recreating the pose from the magazine, confident it will go viral again. Kazuki hesitates for a moment, then decides it could help promote the magazine and agrees. As she strikes the pose, Mia snaps multiple shots and hugs her phone, declaring that the photo is perfect and will be her permanent lock screen. Kazuki laughs and tells her not to make it forever. Kozomi feels a little jealous, but also genuinely proud of her. He reflects that Kazuki at school and Kazuki at home are such opposites that only he has ever seen both versions. That night, Kozomi finishes studying, stretches, and decides to grab a drink. As he heads to the kitchen, the door slowly opens and a hand reaches out. Teasingly, the voice asks if the lonely Oni-chan wants a little excitement on such a dull day. Curious, he steps closer, wondering what kind of thrill she means, only to be yanked inside and pinned against the wall. It's Sokola, fully dressed in Anastasia's outfit from the latest episode of Spy Darling. Kozomi is stunned by how accurate the costume is. She smiles and says it's her favorite outfit, so she poured everything she had into making it. Kozomi realizes cosplay is yet another secret hobby of hers, one only he knows about. She even creates her own costumes, a talent she inherited from her mother, who works as a tailor. He inspects the outfit closely and comments that the craftsmanship is amazing. His eyes drift downward for a second before he quickly looks away. Flustered, she teases him, asking whether he's admiring the detailed chest area. He blurts out that he was talking about the costume quality and tries to recover. He adds that her earrings look great and asks if they're official merch. She beams, thrilled that he noticed. When he says they must have been expensive, she insists that with this level of perfection, the price doesn't matter, explaining that it makes her feel even closer to Anna-chan and thus worth every cent. Kozomi says he gets it as a fellow otaku, but warns her to be careful with big purchases. Then Sokola inhales deeply and begins reciting Anastasia's iconic monologue from episode 1. Kozomi blushes, thinking that with her acting and costume quality, she's genuinely impressive. She asks if the earrings make her appear even more like Anacon, telling him to look closely at the tiny details. As he steps backward, he accidentally steps on small pieces of fabric scattered across the floor. She explains that they're leftover scraps from making the outfit. Kozomi tells her at least to keep them in one pile. Understanding how much work she put into the costume, suddenly, she gets an idea. A mischievous grin spreads across her face as she starts tossing scraps at him. She then asks him to take a picture. She throws him her phone and begins snapping flicks. Laughing, he begins photographing her from every angle, thinking to himself how incredible she really is. Eventually, they both collapse onto the floor, worn out and surrounded by fabric pieces. Kozomi asks who's going to clean the mess, and she immediately declares it's his responsibility. He sighs, wondering if she only treats him like her Oni-chan when it benefits her. Then he asks why she doesn't upload her cosplay photos online, pointing out that she's popular on social media and that even his friends talk about her. She says she simply enjoys making the outfits and feels happy just letting him see them. The answer flusters him. She teases him, asking if maybe he just wants her cosplay pics all to himself, but before he can answer, her stomach growls loudly. He quickly says he's hungry too and runs off to start dinner, telling her to get changed and clean up the room. As he leaves, she mutters that he dodged cleaning yet again. Kozomi smiles to himself, admitting she's right. He genuinely feels happy knowing the cosplay photos are for his eyes only, even though she constantly drags him along at her own pace. In the kitchen, Kozomi prepares dinner and calls her over. Sokola sees the food and is shocked to find it's the same pasta Anakin ate in the anime. He reminds her that she said she wanted to try it, and she lights up, thrilled to eat the same dish as Anna-chan. Kozomi twirls a forkful of spaghetti and offers it to her, recalling how Jay fed Anastasia the same way in Spy Darling. Even though it's not something he would normally do, he hopes she enjoy the moment. She takes a bite, licks her lips, and declares it delicious, asking for more. Kozomi falls backward in embarrassment, realizing the scene didn't play out nearly as smoothly as it did in the anime. Kozomi tries to change the topic after Sokola notices his embarrassment, but she ignores him. He ends up cleaning the messy room alone. Every morning before school, Kozomi has several responsibilities. He prepares lunch for his girlfriend, makes breakfast, and wakes Kazuki up. Kazuki rarely wakes up after just one call. One morning, he opens her door to warn her he's leaving. He freezes when he sees her in a fluster-inducing sleeping position. Kazuki insists she is already awake, even though she clearly isn't. He reminds her that breakfast will get cold. She jumps up immediately at the mention of food. After leaving the apartment, Kozomi thinks about Sokolo, his stepsister and secret girlfriend. They purposely go to school at different times to avoid suspicion. At the elevator, their neighbor Aino greets him normally, unaware of anything between them. During lunch at school, Kozomi eats with his friends. One friend asks if buying lunch every day is annoying. Kozomi replies that making lunch every day is even more painful. Another friend wonders why his mother doesn't make lunch for him. Kozomi explains that his parents are currently overseas. This surprises his friends, who didn't know. Nearby, Sokolo eats lunch with her own friends. Her friend comments that Sokolo is lucky to have pasta again today. The friend assumes her big brother made it. Kazuki happily confirms and praises her brother. Kozomi silently thinks it's just leftovers with some sides. She continues that she had asked her big brother to make pasta for him and he did, adding how kind and amazing he is. One of her friends calls her a bro-con and the other insists that she would make meals for her to given the chance. Hearing her praise him, one of Kozomi's friends jokes that he should learn to cook too. He says maybe good cooking would get Sokolo to date him. Kozomi simply replies, "I'm good." Internally, he thinks about how he cooks every single day already. He remembers a past moment when Sokolo asked why he didn't make lunch for himself. He told her that matching lunches might make classmates suspicious. He also said making to different lunches is a hassle. She seemed sad hearing this. He assured her he was happy and suggested they could take turns cooking someday. Returning to the present, Sokolo tells her friends she can't survive without her brother's cooking. Kozomi feels tortured listening to his girlfriend brag about him like a normal brother. He escapes to the bathroom. Staring in the mirror, he admits that if it makes Kazuki happy, the effort is worth it. He begins thinking about what to make for dinner. When he returns to class, he sees Kazuki talking to his friend Tsunokichi. She's discussing anime outfits and how unrealistic Anastasia-chan's costume is. Kozomi panics because she's being too openly otaku at school. Then he notices her earrings. They're the Anastasia cosplay piercings from her costume. He internally screams, realizing she wore them to school by mistake. If anyone recognizes them, her entire secret otaku side could be exposed. Kozomi quickly calls her outside the classroom, which startles the other students, surprising Kazuki herself. Kazuki jokes that if this is a confession, she already belongs to her big brother. He urgently tells her to look at her earrings. She touches them, realizes, and yells in shock. He immediately hushes her. Kazuki explains she was in a rush and didn't notice. He scolds her to give herself more time in the mornings. She apologizes quietly. He says they're safe as long as no one noticed. He instructs her that they should return separately to avoid suspicion. He also advises her to stay away from his group for a while because she drew attention earlier. Kazuki apologizes again for making things harder for him, admitting she contradicts herself. She wants secrecy, but also wants to talk to him constantly. Kozomi simply tells her just to be careful around his friends. He thinks that getting dragged into her chaos is actually fun. Walking back, he worries his friends might misunderstand why he pulled her out. His friends immediately bombard him with questions. One asks if they thought about Anastasia again. Another says, classic Kozomi, he gives up trying to explain. Later at home, he cuts vegetables and reflects on the day. Nobody seems suspicious about him and Kazuki being alone together. Even his friends didn't consider the possibility they might be dating. He assumes everyone thinks Kazuki is way out of his league. That makes it impossible in their eyes, which benefits their secret relationship, but Kozomi still finds it frustrating. He wonders why he wants people to think he has a chance with her. This contradiction annoys him. For dinner, Kozomi makes a huge batch of dumplings. Kazuki sees them and asks if they're having a party. He says, sort of. She eats one and praises how crispy, hot, and juicy it is. She adds that homemade food has a charm she loves. Kazuki asks why he made such a large amount of dumplings. Kozomi explains that he was thinking about something and accidentally overdid it. She asks if he was thinking about her. He quietly nods. She then asks if he was thinking about what happened at school. Kazuki slams her hand on the table and vows she'd be more careful from now on. Kozomi tells her not to stress over it. Under his breath, he mutters that something subtle like matching lunches might actually serve as a good hint. She stares at him, confused by what he means. Kozomi brushes it off and says he was joking. He still believes nobody would ever guess the nature of their relationship, but to their absolute shock, Aino spots them together and instantly understands what's going on. Kozomi realizes he must have gotten far too relaxed, assuming no one would ever notice the truth. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe.